What was our best quarter mile so far? 0 to 60, 4.5?
Yeah, 4.5, 0 to 60, 9.9, 0 to 100, and 12.7 to 12.7 quarter mile.
Yep.
Brake, right foot on the gas. That did not feel like launch control. That's too much power for that. What you need to do is you need to lower the revs. Then it drops the clutch.
I had to use the cruise control to lower the revs. That's a feature.
One that wants to drive into people.
Yes. This is a pedestrian's worst nightmare.
We're talking about turbo lag. This car's pretty excellent, but you got to pay attention to what your gear you're in out of a corner. Otherwise, you'll put your foot down and it'll hold the same gear forever. And it'll finally get there, but there's definitely noticeable turbo lag in this thing.
Yeah, I mean, that has to do with the ratios of this transmission, as we've learned.
Yeah, they're wide. I think that's why you get the manual in here. You can shift it just as fast as this thing.
Yeah.
That was just a smoking burnout. That wasn't launch control. Supposed to take you off as fast as... What the fuck was that? You feel that?
That was dual clutch.
That was a dual clutch. That was a... That wasn't as impressive as I thought it would be.
Yeah, double clutch sucks, especially the 7-speed. It just feels dated. It feels like the old double clutches that every car guy used to review and been like, oh, flat pedal gearbox is trash, because it kind of is. It's drivable, but you can catch it out in some weird situations, and it'll do this engage, disengage, bounce, surge thing, and it makes you look like a complete idiot. So, more impressive than the 425 horsepower motor is the fact that the seats recline to 180 degrees. The M2 didn't, or the 2 Series didn't. Camaro didn't. Mustang was okay.
I do like the long third and fourth gear.
I don't. I like the Camaro where it's bam, bam, bam. This is like mwah, mwah, mwah.
Power band's just so long though.
Yeah, I don't know.
BMW is a huge pain in the ass, so not giving us Android Auto until July of this year. We have duct taped, or double-sided taped, a Pixel 4 to the dash beneath our other screen, which is pretty much worthless. It's just showing us engine stuff. And now we have Android Auto. Quite a lot. I can see smoke coming off the back tires in my mirror. It needs like a refuel, and the cost is so high, and it's kind of an outdated design. This is where Michael had to slow down. It's got a pretty small fuel tank. That's a lot of extra refuels. Like, gas mileage isn't just about saving the environment, it's about convenience. Oh yeah, and we did figure out it's twin turbo and it's split 3 and 3. So you kind of get the benefit of a twin scroll where you don't have the destructive interference between the percussion coming out of the exhaust valves. It's got variable valve timing on both camshafts, which involves some like German magic with little helical gears and shit. We don't know where the AC condenser is. It probably is like in the headliner, I think. But those cars get 30 miles per gallon. This bitch is getting, we're getting 26, so that's not bad. We've gotten 26 over the past 11 miles, averaging 80 miles per hour. Android Auto's coming to newer BMWs this July. It'll be an update for all like the 2018, 2019 models.
What's that road noise?
Yeah, here's the road noise. Can you hear it? We gotta yell now. Trash. Road surface got a little bit worse and the noise just quadrupled.
Needs cup holders in the back.
Oh yeah, no cup holders. This thing has two functional cup holders.
I'm a big fan of the iDrive little dial thing. Like, my car is like all touchscreen.
Not having to use a touchscreen.
Which is okay, but like if you're driving and like you need to be paying attention to driving, it's difficult to like
look and point, and probably more dangerous than the Camaro was.
Just because of the turbo lag, like you don't know when the power's gonna kick in.
Exactly. AC's pretty cold. Wish it had AC seats, just like everything else. All right, we forgot to add one thing intelligent. So the back seats, like where your feet slide underneath them, the top where the top of your foot would hit is padded. So if like you're back there and someone's driving like me, you can kind of wedge your feet underneath there to kind of brace yourself in.
It's actually very nice.
I think the back seats were intended for extracurricular activities.
That left some very big skid marks.
For this interior, it is quite brilliant, except for this shit right here. It seems to be peeling around the gear shifter, and the gear shifter has some weird like cracking going on in it. And these door cup holders,
That's for water bottles.
they're for water bottles. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Now, while we're talking about launch control, I have some gripes with it. Sometimes it works great. Like, it'll minimize wheel spin, it'll launch really good, put you back in your seat, really, utilize the double clutch to its full capacity. And other times, it launches good in first, and then it goes into second and just lights up the tires in second, slides all over the road. So once you get in launch control and you're building up your revs, it defaults to about 3,000. You can use your cruise control little toggle here to move it down or up RPMs. I've launched at 2,500 RPMs almost exclusively, and that's a pretty good RPM for a clean road with warm tires and not a prep surface. And sometimes it just roasts them in first, sometimes it's perfect in first and second. It's just kind of inconsistent. The point of launch control is to get a good consistent launch every time. So not real impressed with the launch control logic on this 2016 M3. Probably the best handling car I've driven ever. Compared to the Camaro, it's a lot more refined. The interior is much better. Even though it's got a lower peak power, this is 425, the Camaro is 455. It's definitely faster. Even with the turbo lag, it's still faster. If you really know how to drive this car and use it effectively and really utilize this transmission, it's definitely faster. The turbo lag is kind of magnified by the fact that this thing has a really wide ratio 7-speed, or at least it feels that way. Like third and fourth gear pulled forever. I think if those gears were closer together, it would make it easier to keep it in the power range. But all that being said, it's still an extremely impressive, capable car. But now, question of the day, will I buy one? No, definitely not. I'm not spending $70,000 on a car, ever probably. Definitely not until I have other less expensive hobbies and I get really boring. I think the M340i is the best value. Currently the M340 has an updated interior. There is currently no M3. Maybe at the end of the year we'll get one. But it's going to be 500 horsepower, and that's just too much power. I don't need that going to the rear wheels. Maybe if it was all-wheel drive. And it's going to be, $80,000 or something. But the current M340i is putting down better times than this car is stock. And then a tuned M340i will roast this car. So, you get the best of both worlds. M340i is more efficient. It's got the newer motor, single twin scroll turbo. It's got a quieter interior. It's got a nicer, more updated interior. It's got more features, remote start, Android Auto, etc. It doesn't have this 7-speed automatic. It's got a regular 8-speed automatic. I'm not a big fan of the 7-speed automatic. It's done a few things weird. Put about 400 miles on this car in 24 hours. So I can tell you, pretty comprehensive review, a lot of different road surfaces and stuff. It's a sweet car. Is it hard to live with? Maybe a little bit. Not so much the ride or the harshness of the suspension, but the road noise on certain surfaces. And that comes down to the tires, but these tires are in good shape, and they're not a terrible tire. They're Continental, so, Infotainment Center's great. This one's 4 years out of date, obviously, but still very useful. I love everything about it, pretty much. And the back seats are really practical and functional. Your rear airbag there, rear heated seats. Very easy to get in and out of. 3 series,
there's a reason everyone drives a 3 Series. They're just practical cars. So probably end up with an M340i in the next couple months. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Part of me misses the Camaro's power delivery, because obviously it was naturally aspirated, so the power was just boom there. This in some gears, there's some turbo lag, but these gears pull a lot longer. The Camaro had to go through about 2 more extra gears in the quarter mile than this car did. Its torque curve just goes up and it carries. So it's a pretty great car. I was sad to see the BMW go to a turbo straight 6 from the V8s. You know, most of that was driven by the EPA, which I think's the devil. You know, thanks Obama. I like the naturally aspirated V8s a lot, and I think if they continued putting all their money in them, they'd be faster than this today. This car is very complicated: turbos, cooling system, valve train, yeah, you name it. Everything about this car is complicated. V8s were a little simpler, and obviously no turbo lag. But this is the way of the future, and you know, this car is getting 26 miles per gallon today, even though we've driven it pretty spiritedly. The new one, M340i, is gonna get 30 miles per gallon. I mean, you probably wouldn't get that out of a BMW V8. My Camaro realistically got like 27 miles per gallon if we were driving it like we drove it today. Probably would have got 22. So they are efficient, they are green, and they are fucking fast. So it's hard to argue with all that. And honestly, the motor feels great. I'm not a big turbo guy, but the power delivery is outstanding. The cooling system on this car is likened to a pressurized water reactor, in that it's overly complicated and has all these extra things going on for reasons that are just unknown to normal people. It's got
that you have very little fake vents.
Yeah, all the vents are utilized. It's got a big radiator for the engine, and then it's got a little side square radiator in like the corner at the bottom, also for the engine, and those are kind of in parallel. And then on the other side, you've got a little radiator that's a separate circuit just for the intercooler, which is a water over air heat exchanger, or air over water, or whatever.
And it also does the turbos too.
The turbos are the engine coolant.
Oh, right.
The intercooler is its own water, but there's also a giant radiator or heat exchanger in front of the big radiator that's also just for the intercooler. So those two are kind of in parallel too.
Yeah.
And then you've got at the bottom of it, like laying flat for some stupid ass reason, there's the engine oil cooler, which is also the turbo oil cooler. And then all of those circuits have different motors to circulate the coolant. Like there's a motor to circulate coolant into the car,
yes,
instead of it just tapping into the regular one.
The engine coolant circuit is driven by the belt, the engine belt.
Right.
And then the charge air for the intercooler is driven by an electric pump,
right,
which will still run once the car turns off. So if you turn it off and you get out of the car, you'll hear like it whirring for a little bit.
Right. And the heater core's electric pump, is the turbos, is that their own pump as well? The turbo coolant? I think it is.
Yeah, there's an additional pump in that circuit for the turbos.
I think there's 4 water pumps in this car.